So I'm sure you know this story already because Sony has not been shy to talk about what they've been doing with Microsoft and Switch and all that. Basically, I'm sure you know that Sony's been blocking crossplay for months now. Back when Fortnite first came to consoles, there was accidental crossplay apparently between the PS4 and the Xbox One version of the game, and then Sony got involved and they just blocked out all of it. And I've purposely never talked about those stories because I've never really had a reaction that I thought was worth turning into a video. But this time, I have some more information that my main reaction once I saw this information completely switched my reactions, no pun intended. And yeah, I just thought that this was worth making a video on. So what has Sony done now? Well, Microsoft has revealed that Sony is, surprise surprise, they're blocking Fortnite PS4 and Xbox One crossplay. And of course, Sony and Epic Games are not commenting. Although Epic Games did say something at the Game Awards, but that's a whole different video. So, TheVerge.com, which I'm getting this information from, had a little bit of a talk with a Microsoft spokesperson, which they didn't state who this person's name is. I'm telling you, it's not Phil Spencer, though. And here's what they had to say about PS4 crossplay. We're working closely with Nintendo to allow cross-network play between Xbox One and Switch, and our offer to do the same with PlayStation players still holds. For any other questions regarding Fortnite cross-network play between Xbox and PlayStation, please reach out to Sony or Epic directly. And like I said at the beginning of the video, The Verge did reach out to Sony and Epic Games, but none of them have commented. So overall, when I first saw this, my main reaction was just, Sony, are you serious? Like, you're the only company that's doing this. Every other gaming company out there has been allowing crossplay for this generation. Why are you not doing it? And obviously, you know why. It's because they want to attract more people to the PlayStation 4. It's not because they want to monitor kids. Maybe that's like 1% of the reason. But you know it's all about the money for them. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. That's literally how companies function. And it is kind of sad that Sony's treating us like that. But hey, you know what? I'll be fine with it because, you know what? Companies are built to make money, and Sony is no exception. But something The Verge pointed out that I had no idea about, that I really wanted to talk about, because this, when I saw this, this completely flipped my thoughts on this. So what am I talking about? Well, back in 2011, Kotaku interviewed a Microsoft spokesperson, and this was back when the 360 was at the king. It was literally at the peak of its success. The 360 was the best-selling console at the time, and compared to the PS3, although the PS3 did end up catching up, it was heavily outdoing it. Sounds similar to the PlayStation 4, right? You know, the PlayStation 4 is currently the king, and the Xbox One is falling behind. And back in 2011, a Microsoft spokesperson who was talking to Kotaku at the time said the following about crossovers. Because we can't guarantee this level of quality or control the player experience on other consoles or gaming networks, we currently do not open our network to games that allow this crossover capability. If you don't know why that's so important, it's because this shows that Sony is not the first to do this. What this means is that pretty much every console that has networks and it's at the, you know, a console that can connect to other consoles has the capability, and it's at its peak of success, and it's the king of the industry. They're not going to allow crossovers most of the time when you're dealing with Microsoft or Sony. So, what I'm thinking is happening is that Microsoft and Sony, when they don't want to draw attention to other platforms, they want to keep themselves at the top of the roller coaster, and that makes sense because they want to keep that money coming in. But the problem is that with that, what that shows us is that any manufacturer can do this. It's not, we can't literally just blame Sony. Sure, it would be nice if they did allow crossovers, and I do wish that they did do that, but we can't just blame Sony because Microsoft has done this in the past. So what I think this means is that if a console isn't doing too well, they're going to want to be as pro-consumer as possible. If they're doing as well as they can, then they can yank the consumer's chain a little, and they can try and do some. They can just try and pull off some business practices to pull in more money. But I don't know how to feel about this. I just think that if a console manufacturer is going to act like this, then what it shows us is that unless a generation is going to come where everyone is at the peak of their success at the same time, I feel like it's always going to be like this, which is kind of depressing. The only company I can think of that makes like hardware that hasn't done something like this is Nintendo, but in the past they have done some pretty shady things. Like, do you remember with when Sony was developing the Nintendo PlayStation? Like that whole thing. Like, you can defend Nintendo as much as you want today, but you have to admit that was kind of a dick move to back then. To just be like, okay, we're working with Sony, we're making the PlayStation. Then all of a sudden we're like, you know what? Let's just turn to Philips, Sony's direct competitor at the time, and let's work with them to make the CDI. Like, could you imagine being Sony at the time? That was so embarrassing. And that just shows us that every company, Nintendo is not doing it as much today, but every company pretty much is just going to do this. Now, this is very confusing. I hope I explained this in a way that you understood. I'm not throwing flack at Nintendo. I'm throwing a bit at Sony and Microsoft because I feel like no matter the success, it would be nice if all consumers could play a game together no matter what platform they have, because, someone might have a PS4 Pro, and the other person might not be able to afford it, and they have an Xbox One S, and they can't play their game together, because even though they're friends, they want to play the game together, they can't. Now, good thing that the Xbox One will be compatible with the Switch when it comes to crossovers, but still, this is so confusing, and I wish that we didn't have to deal with this because, the better for us, but at the end of the day, every console manufacturer is going to pull something to try and reel in more money. But anyway, I would appreciate it if you shared your thoughts on this in the comments. And if you did enjoy this video, I would appreciate it if you shared this video on social media, but there's always up to you. And I'll have my social medias linked in the description, and see you.